My son said it like he was reading a weather report. Mom, pack your bags. You're moving out today. You've got 1 hour. No hesitation. No emotion. Just facts, delivered clean and cold. The funny thing, I had just folded the last towel. I remember smoothing the fabric with my palms, lining it up neatly, the way I always had. Old habits die hard. Order makes chaos feel smaller. That's when Avery walked in. Her footsteps were sharp, aggressive, like she wanted the floor to flinch under her. She didn't look at me. She looked at the laundry basket, and then she slammed her hand into it. Clothes exploded onto the floor, socks, shirts, towels, scattered like shrapnel. It felt intentional, like she wanted the mess to make a point. Pack your bags, she said, pointing at me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Today's the day. 1 hour, May. I stood there, holding air where the basket used to be. My mind stalled, like a car refusing to start. Then Luke stepped in behind her. My son, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes flat. He didn't even look at me like I was his mother anymore. I was just something in the way. Where you're going, he said with a snort. Anywhere but here. Leeches don't get to stay. That word hit harder than the shove of reality. Leeches. I've been called a lot of things in my life. Weak, old-fashioned, too quiet, but never that. Avery leaned closer, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret. You've drained enough out of us. And honestly, that old person smell of yours sticks to everything. Luke nodded like she just stated a medical fact. You slow the whole house down. Even the kids avoid you. None of it was true. Not one word. But when lies are repeated with confidence, they start sounding real, especially when the people saying them used to love you. Avery kicked one of Luke's shirts aside, clearing a path like I was garbage blocking her way. You're lucky we kept you this long. Some people know when to leave before they ruin everything. My hands trembled, not from fear, but disbelief. This hatred didn't start overnight. It grew in quiet corners. Avery never forgave me for refusing to lend her money years ago. She wanted a flashy new car, something shiny enough for social media. Her credit was already wrecked, and I told her gently that I couldn't risk my savings. She said I ruined her life. Then there was the time she posted a video of her daughter online that made my stomach twist. I warned her the internet wasn't kind to kids. She accused me of shaming her as a mother. From that moment on, I was the villain in her story. But the real poison? The house. My house. When Avery found out the deed, the taxes, everything was in my name, something changed in her eyes. Like I'd suddenly become a locked door standing between her and the future she wanted. I tried to stay useful. I always had. I worked for decades as a hospital seamstress, mending uniforms, stitching tiny blankets for newborns, fixing tears made by people running to save lives. Every holiday, I sewed Luke something by hand. When he went to college, I sold my sewing machine, even my wedding ring. I never told him. Then I broke my hip. I slowed down, but I didn't stop. I still cooked, still cleaned, still showed up. But to Avery, slowing down meant becoming disposable. Luke didn't defend me. He just let it happen. And one night, when Avery thought I was asleep, I heard her whisper to him, venom soft as silk, if your mother stays one more month, I'm taking my kids and leaving. Choose. He chose. That was the moment I understood something important. This wasn't about me being old. This was about me being in the way. And standing there in that ruined laundry room, with 1 hour ticking down like a bomb, I realized something else too. They thought this was the end of my story. They had no idea it had already changed. But what Luke and Avery didn't know, what they couldn't possibly imagine, was that the night before, I had overheard something that made my blood run cold, something they believed was already in motion. And once I understood what they were planning, I stopped packing bags and started paying attention. That night, sleep wouldn't come, not because I was scared, but because something felt off, like the air in the house had shifted and nobody bothered to tell me why. You live long enough, you learn to feel when trouble is pacing nearby, waiting for the right moment to strike. I was heading toward the kitchen for a glass of water when I heard Avery's voice drifting from the living room. Low, urgent, the kind of tone people use when they think secrets are safe. I told you, she whispered into her phone. Everything started last week. She won't be here much longer. I stopped cold. Last week, my heartbeat thudded in my ears. I stood there, barely breathing, like if I moved, the truth would hear me coming and hide. She won't be here long. Those words weren't about patience. They were about certainty. Whatever they had done, they believed it was already set in stone. That was the moment fear drained out of me and something sharper took its place. Clarity, the kind that sobers you fast. From that point on, I started noticing things, little things. Luke suddenly insisted on being the only one with the mailbox key. He dangled it from his keyring like it was no big deal, but it never left his sight. I'll grab the mail, he'd say. It's easier. Funny thing was, every envelope addressed to me somehow disappeared. And if I reached for one, Avery swooped in, smiling sweet as poison. Oh, honey, she chirped. Older folks forget paperwork. I'll handle it. Handle it. Yeah, right. A few days later, I found a folded statement tucked between towels in the hallway cabinet. My name was printed across the top. A credit card charge for nearly $1,000 from a jewelry store I'd never stepped foot in. For a second, I wondered if I was losing it. Then I showed Avery. She laughed, a soft, pitying laugh that crawled under my skin. Maybe you forgot, she said. Memory issues start like that, you know. She tapped her temple. Hard. Luke didn't even look up from his phone. That's when the cold settled in my chest. Not panic, not yet. Just the realization that this wasn't sloppy. It was planned. A week later, I heard noises in the garage while carrying leftovers to the freezer. Metal scraping, paper shuffling, the buzz of a drill. Then Avery's sharp whisper, "Not now, she's coming." The garage door slammed shut. Locked. My garage. My house. Suddenly off limits. After that, Avery changed tactics. She stopped attacking my things and started attacking my mind. Whenever friends visited, she performed concern like an Oscar nominee. She drains the energy out of the room, she'd say loudly while folding laundry. She moves slow on purpose for attention. She's fading. It's sad, really. Lies wrapped in sympathy, gaslighting with a smile. But the moment that really cracked everything open came one night at 1:40 a.m. I was walking past Luke's office when I heard his voice, soft, tender, nothing like the tone he used with me. "I love you," he whispered. "Once the house situation is fixed, we'll be free. I promise." The name that followed felt like a slap. Mara. Another woman. Another life. And then I understood why Avery hated me like I was in her way. Because I was. They didn't just want me gone. They needed me erased. The next morning, while picking up a towel near the utility closet, I nudged a storage bin. The lid popped open and paper spilled out. Pages and pages of shaky handwriting. My signature. Over and over again. Someone had been practicing it. Carefully. Patiently. Like they were studying me. My knees buckled, and I sank to the floor, gripping the papers as reality locked into place. This wasn't about moving me out. This was about stealing my name, stealing my life. That evening, sitting alone in my room, Avery's words echoed in my head. It's already in motion. They weren't pushing me out. They were preparing paperwork, legal paperwork. And whatever they planned to do with my name, it wasn't going to be kind. But what Luke didn't count on, what he never imagined, was that he left something behind. An old laptop, forgotten, untouched, and inside it was proof that would burn their entire plan to the ground. Luke had always been careful. That's what I used to believe anyway. Careful with money, careful with appearances, careful with what people saw and what they didn't. But even careful people get sloppy when they think someone's already powerless. That's how I found the laptop. It was shoved high on the closet shelf, collecting dust like something he assumed would never be touched again. He'd moved his whole life onto his phone years ago. Passwords, messages, secrets, always locked, always closed. But this laptop, abandoned. The moment the screen flickered on, I saw my reflection staring back at me, pale, tense, bracing for something I already knew would hurt. I tried a few passwords. Nothing. Then, on instinct, I typed one word. Chloe. It opened instantly. That alone told me everything I needed to know about where his heart had been all along. I didn't dig around like some amateur. I went straight to the trash folder. People get lazy there. They delete things and assume they're gone forever. The first file made my breath catch. A photo. Luke stood in it, smiling wider than I'd seen in years, holding a toddler with curly hair wrapped tight around his leg. Beside him was a woman I recognized immediately, Mara. Her hand rested on his back like it had always belonged there. In the corner, written in bright glitter marker, Daddy Luke and us. Us, not me. Not the family under my roof. A second family. My chest tightened, but I kept scrolling. Messages followed. Short, efficient, cruel in their casualness. Did you tell your wife about selling your mom's house? We need the money. 2 months is the deadline. Selling my house. The truth landed cold and clean. This was the plan. Not caregiving. Not concern. Not what's best for mom. They wanted cash. They wanted my home to fund a life I wasn't meant to exist in. Then I found it. A scanned document, ripped into pieces, half deleted. I dragged the fragments together. A real estate contract. My house. Listed. Scheduled. And right where my signature should have been, a fake. Close enough to fool strangers. Slanted. Forced. Practiced. My stomach dropped. They weren't asking me to sign anything. They were forging it. But that wasn't even the worst part. Tucked into another folder was a handwritten note. Cognitive evaluation before POA signing. Power of attorney. They were setting me up to be declared incompetent, to legally strip me of control over my life. My hands shook, but my mind was clear. This wasn't desperation. This was strategy. Then I noticed something else. A cloud folder syncing in the background. Luke had installed a security camera months ago, claimed snacks were going missing. He laughed about it, called me sneaky. What he forgot. Cloud backups don't forget. I clicked play. The first video showed Avery in the kitchen, lifting my medication and placing it on the highest shelf. She needs to struggle, she muttered. Makes her look confused. Another clip. Luke yanking Avery's son by the arm so hard the boy nearly fell. Stop defending that old hag, he snapped. Avery didn't stop him. She just hissed. Don't leave marks. Not yet. My breath went shallow. Another video. Avery pacing, whispering like she was reading off a playbook. Just break her mentally. Then she'll sign anything. I'll sail. Power of attorney. Whatever we need. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Something inside me settled, quiet, heavy, unmovable. They thought I was fading. They thought I was confused. They had no idea I was collecting everything. I closed the laptop gently, almost respectfully. Thank you, I whispered, because now I had proof, and proof doesn't beg. But I wasn't done yet, because evidence is stronger when it keeps talking. That night, while they slept, I planted 4 tiny witnesses around the house, and what they confessed next would destroy each other before I ever had to speak. That night, I didn't sleep, not because I was scared, but because I was ready. When the house finally went quiet, I moved slow and steady, the way you do when you don't want the floor to remember you were there. Years of being underestimated teaches you how to disappear when you need to. I placed the first recorder inside a hollow ceramic angel on the mantel. The second slipped behind a crooked picture frame in the hallway. The third I tucked beneath the couch cushion Avery always claimed as hers. The last one, inside the wicker basket where Luke tossed his keys every night. 4 tiny ears. 4 silent witnesses. Then I waited. The next evening, I sat in my room with the lights off, phone in my lap, listening as the recording synced. Their voices came through crisp, like they were standing right next to me. Luke spoke first, irritated, impatient. I opened 2 more accounts under her name today, he muttered. Small transfers. Keeps the bank quiet. Avery's heels clicked across the garage floor. Good. I changed her mailing address to my P.O. box last week. She won't see a single statement. They said it like they were talking about grocery coupons. Luke sighed. Her signature's almost there. Needs a little more practice. Almost there. Like I was a product being finalized. Avery laughed softly, sharp and metallic. After the mental exam, she won't have rights anyway. That doctor barely listens. I'll tell him she's confused. And boom, paperwork signed. My pulse stayed calm. That surprised me. Then Luke's phone buzzed. His voice changed instantly, softer, warmer, younger. Hey, yeah, I miss you too. Once the house sells, Mara, and I will finally be free. The garage went dead silent. Even through the recording, I could feel the air freeze. What did you just say? Avery asked. Luke hesitated. I said, a slap cracked loud enough to make me flinch. You have a mistress. Avery screamed. A whole other woman? And a kid? Another slap. You used me, she shrieked. You helped yourself to your mother's money for her? Luke shouted back, panic. We needed the cash. The house is the only asset. So you steal from the woman who raised you. Avery fired back. You drug her. You isolate her. And all this time you plan to leave me too? Luke didn't deny it. He just kept saying Mara's name like it might save him. Their alliance crumbled in real time. Months of manipulation collapsing into chaos. They screamed. They accused. They confessed. And every word was recorded. I sat back and exhaled slowly. People who build power through cruelty always forget one thing. Eventually, they turn on each other. When the recordings ended, I didn't feel victory. I felt certainty. This was enough. The next morning, Avery knocked on my door once before pushing it open. Downstairs, she said. Now. Her voice carried confidence, the kind people have when they think the game is already over. Luke waited at the dining table, a neat stack of papers laid out like a trap dressed as responsibility. He didn't offer me a chair. Mom, he began, tapping the papers. We need to talk about your living situation. Avery folded her arms, smiling. You're declining, Luke continued, forgetting things, getting confused. The safest option is a care facility. Avery leaned forward. 1 month, that's generous. I said nothing. They mistook my silence for weakness. Avery circled the table slowly. This Christmas will be your last one here. Luke nodded. The nurse will help you with everything. It's better this way. I finally looked up. And you believe this is your decision? I asked calmly. Avery laughed. You don't get a decision anymore, sweetheart. Luke slid the final paper toward me. The cognitive test is scheduled. After that, we handle everything. That's when my phone buzzed. A message lit up the screen. Living trust finalized. Full asset protection in place. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and smiled. They didn't know it yet, but the game had already ended. They thought they had 30 days to erase me. They had no idea Christmas morning would be the day everything blew up in front of everyone they cared about. Christmas morning came dressed in fake cheer. Luke went all out that year, lights everywhere, candles lit, music humming nonstop. The house looked warm, inviting, picture perfect. A cover photo for a lie. Relatives filled the living room, balancing paper plates and awkward smiles. Laughter bounced off the walls, but underneath it all, something felt tight. Worse. Luke clinked his glass like he was hosting an award ceremony. I just want to say, he announced, smiling too wide. Here's to fresh starts, to freedom, to letting go of burdens. His eyes flicked toward me for half a second. Avery's lips curled. She already tasted victory. I stood up slowly. Every conversation stalled. Chairs scraped. Someone whispered my name. Grandma? Evan asked softly. What are you doing? Just fixing something, sweetheart, I said, walking toward the tree. The star on top was hollow, old ceramic, hand-painted years ago. Inside it sat the smallest recorder of all. I reached up and flipped the hidden switch. Click. The speakers Avery had set up for Christmas music connected automatically, not carols. Luke's voice filled the room, calm and confident. Once she's in a facility, the house is ours. Mara and I can finally start over. The room froze. A fork clattered to the floor. Someone gasped. Avery spun around. Turn that off. The next clip played. She'll sign anything once we break her mentally. Avery's voice purred. Power of attorney, house sale, whatever. Murmurs erupted. Luke rushed toward the speaker. Mom, stop this. I didn't move. More audio rolled out. You changed her mailing address, right? Yeah. She won't see a single statement. Keep practicing her signature. A chair scraped back violently. This is out of context, Luke shouted. Then the TV flickered on. The cloud back up. Avery climbing onto a stool, shoving my medication out of reach. Luke grabbing Avery's son by the arm, shouting, "Stop defending that old hag." Gasps turned into anger. "Are you serious?" Aunt Linda snapped. Another clip played. "Just break her mentally," Avery whispered. "Then she'll sign anything." Silence cracked open like glass. Avery lunged toward the tree, but two cousins stepped in front of her. Luke turned to me, face white. "You set us up." "No," I said calmly. "You exposed yourselves." As if the universe had perfect timing, the front door knocked hard. Two police officers stepped in, followed by a woman holding a badge. "Luke Turner, Avery Dalton," the officer announced. "You're under arrest for elder fraud, identity theft, and exploitation." Avery screamed. "This is a mistake." The investigator lifted a small device. "We heard everything." Luke's knees buckled. As they cuffed him, he turned to me. "Mom, please." I met his eyes. "You pressed play first." A woman in heels entered behind them, calm and sharp. "MRS. Turner," she said. "It's time." She opened a sealed envelope. "Clause 14, she read. "Any heir who mistreats or exploits May Turner forfeits all inheritance immediately." The house belongs solely to May Turner. A collective breath released. "And Luke and Avery must vacate within 72 hours. Avery collapsed. Luke didn't say another word. As they were let out, the house felt lighter, not quiet, clean. But justice doesn't end with arrests. What waited in the courtroom would strip Luke of everything he thought he was, and hand me something I never expected. The courtroom smelled like old wood and cold air. That's the first thing I noticed. Not Luke, not Avery, just the weight of a place where lies come to die. I sat in the second row, hands folded, back straight. No tears, no shaking. I wasn't there to beg for mercy or watch revenge unfold. I was there to hear the truth spoken out loud by someone who couldn't be manipulated. Luke shuffled in wearing an orange jumpsuit. My son looked smaller than I remembered, hollowed out, like every shortcut he'd taken in life had finally collected its debt. When his eyes found mine, they flickered with something like panic. I didn't look away. Avery sat across the room, separated by court order. Her makeup was heavy, cracked from crying or rage. I couldn't tell which. Her lawyer whispered constantly, but she stared straight ahead like the walls might cave in if she turned her head. The judge read the charges without drama. Elder abuse, identity theft, financial coercion, conspiracy to obtain power of attorney through deception. Each word hit like a gavel in my chest. When the sentence came, the room went still. For the severity of the crimes and the calculated nature of the harm inflicted, the judge said, "This court sentences Luke Turner to 10 years in state prison." A sharp breath escaped somewhere behind me. Luke's knees buckled. The officer grabbed his arm to keep him upright. He didn't cry. He just stared at the floor like it had finally won. Then the judge turned to Avery. She opened her mouth to protest. The judge didn't let her. Due to documented psychological abuse and evidence presented by Child Protective Services, the judge said, "This court finds you unfit for custody at this time." Avery gasped. "No. Custody of the children," the judge continued, "is transferred temporarily to their great aunt, May Turner." The room spun. I hadn't expected that. Evan and his sister were brought in quietly by a social worker, backpacks on their shoulders. Evan's eyes locked onto mine like he'd been searching for me the whole time. Avery collapsed into herself, sobbing. Without power, she looked empty. As for Mara, the woman Luke thought he was sacrificing everything for, she vanished. Investigators tried contacting her. No response. Lease terminated. Social media wiped. Gone overnight like smoke. And then came the final twist. The little girl in that photo, not Luke's. Not legally. Not biologically. Just leverage. When the detective told him, Luke broke. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a raw, hollow sound like something important finally snapped inside him. In 1 month, He lost his freedom, his house, his family, his future, and the lie he used to justify it all. Spring came quietly. I moved into a small cabin near the woods. The air felt clean, honest. The kids visited every weekend. They slept better, laughed easier, flinched less. One afternoon, my phone rang. The prison number blinked on the screen. I answered. "Mom?" Luke whispered. His voice shook. "I'm sorry. I ruined everything." I listened. "I don't know how I became this person," he said. "I lost everyone." The wind brushed the porch. "Luke," I said softly, "I raised you to be kind." He cried. I didn't save him from the consequences, but I didn't hate him either. I thought the story ended there. I was wrong, because what came next wasn't about punishment. It was about healing. And the final truth I learned about silence changed everything. I moved into the cabin on a morning so quiet it felt sacred. Mist hung low between the trees, like the forest was holding its breath, waiting to see who I'd become without fear living in my chest. Aunt Rose stood on the porch, arms open, no questions in her eyes, just relief. "You're safe now, May," she said. "Go on. Breathe." So I did. Life slowed down in the best way. Not the kind of slow that feels like waiting for something bad to happen, but the kind that gives your heart room to stretch again. Mornings smelled like pine and damp earth. Nights were wrapped in cricket song and clean silence. No footsteps measuring my usefulness. No whispers plotting my exit. No doors locked to remind me I didn't belong. Just peace. Every Saturday, the cabin filled with noise again, good noise. Evan and his sister burst through the door like joy had finally been let off a leash. "Grandma," they'd yell, arms flying around me. And every time, I'd hold them a second longer than necessary, just to remind us all that we were real, we were safe, and nobody was taking this away again. The social worker once told me, "Kids run toward whoever makes them feel steady." I didn't tell her how much that healed something in me. One rainy afternoon, Evan curled up beside me on the couch, watching the drops race down the window. "Grandma," he whispered, "we feel safe here." 5 words. That was it. 5 words that wiped out years of being told I was a burden, a problem, an inconvenience. Rose loved having them around. She taught Evan how to carve little wooden animals, helped his sister start a scrapbook filled with drawings of trees, cabins, and stick figure smiles. The place started to feel like a home, not built on survival, but on gentleness. One evening, as the sky turned lavender behind the pines, my phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. "Everything is finalized. No one can ever control your life again." I sat down slowly. For months, I'd lived braced for impact, waiting for another door to slam, another insult to land, another lie to surface. And just like that, it was over. My accounts were locked tight. My home protected. My choices mine. I typed back, "Thank you for believing me." And I stepped onto the porch. The forest breathed around me, steady and patient. The kind of strength that doesn't rush. The kind that survives storms without bragging about it. I thought about everything Luke and Avery had said over the years. Every time they tried to convince me I was shrinking, fading, disappearing. They were wrong. I wasn't quiet because I was weak. I was quiet because I was watching. I was learning. I was waiting. Silence had been my armor long before it became my weapon. Rose opened the door behind me. "Tea's ready," she said. "I'll be in," I replied. But I stayed there a moment longer, staring at the tree line, feeling something solid bloom in my chest. Not anger, not grief, strength, the kind that doesn't shout. All my life, they told me silence meant surrender. They never understood what lived inside it. And in the end, silence became the loudest justice of all. People spend their whole lives underestimating quiet women. They think silence means obedience, that not arguing means agreeing, that softness equals weakness. I believed that too, once, back when I thought surviving meant staying small enough not to be noticed. I know better now. Silence never meant I had nothing to say. It meant I was listening. I was watching how people moved when they thought no one important was paying attention. I was learning who they became when kindness wasn't required. And when the moment finally came to speak, I didn't need to raise my voice. The truth did that for me. Life at the cabin settled into something steady and honest. Mornings came slow, wrapped in birdsong and sunlight breaking through pine needles. I cooked breakfast without rushing, read books without someone sighing like my existence was an inconvenience. I lived, not in survival mode, not bracing for the next insult, just living. The kids flourished. They laughed louder, slept deeper, stopped apologizing for taking up space. One night, Evan looked up at me while I tucked him in and said, "Grandma, nobody yells here." That simple sentence said everything. Luke wrote once, a single letter, no excuses, no self-pity, just regret, scrawled unevenly across lined paper. I thought power meant control, he wrote. I was wrong. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Some things don't need answers. Closure doesn't always require conversation. Justice had already spoken. As for Avery, she disappeared from my life completely. No calls, no messages, no apologies. People like her don't reflect, they retreat. And that was fine by me. Peace doesn't ask permission to stay. One afternoon, sitting on the porch with a cup of tea warming my hands, I thought back to the woman I'd been in that laundry room, one holding an empty basket while her world collapsed. She thought her story was ending. She was wrong. It was just beginning. I didn't win because I yelled louder or fought dirtier. I won because I paid attention, because I kept records, because I trusted my instincts when everyone else told me I was imagining things, because I refused to disappear. And that's what I want you to remember. If you've ever been told you're too quiet, too old, too slow, too much trouble, hear this clearly. Your silence is not your weakness. It's your strength gathering itself. One day, when the truth needs a voice, it will speak through you. And when it does, it won't ask for permission. It won't apologize. It will simply stand. That's how my story ends. Not broken, not bitter, not small. Free. Free with children who chose love over fear. Free with a life no one else gets to control. Free with dignity intact. They mistook my silence for weakness. But silence, that's where I was strongest.